Thanks, Rita. You're watching South East Today. Our top story tonight: jail for nearly 3/4 of a century for the crime gang behind a plot to smuggle millions of pounds worth of cocaine through Sheerness.
The group are the exact type of group that the NCA target: high-end, high-harm, and those most damaging to the community.
A life-changing moment in Parliament, but what does the vote mean for those affected? Brighton prepare to bring their A-game tonight as they face Southampton in a South Coast clash. We're at the Amex ahead of kick-off. Somewhere only they know. Keane come back to their roots in the South East to chat to us about how it all started. Hello, welcome to the programme. I'm Ellie Crisell. An organised crime gang behind a plot to smuggle more than £90 million worth of cocaine into the UK have been jailed for a total of more than 74 years. The group of men, including a security guard, were arrested after more than 100 police officers swooped on the port of Sheerness in December 2021. Officers seized over a tonne of cocaine found hidden in a shipment of bananas from Costa Rica. Piers Hopkirk has this report.
Waved into Sheerness port and past security in the dead of night. This footage captures the moment an organised crime gang arrived in vans, ready to collect their near £100 million cocaine haul. The gang had bought off corrupt security guard Sam Elphick to get into the port, and such was the scale of the consignment, they'd bought and trained themselves to use a forklift truck ready to unload it. Little did they know, though, they'd been under police surveillance, and as they piled the drugs into the back of their vehicles, armed police swooped. CCTV shows officers stream into the guardhouse as Elphick, who'd acted as the gang's inside man, was arrested and handcuffed.
Sam Elphick was crucial to this organised crime group and their ability to target Sheerness Port, in that he was able to open the barriers for the group to allow access. He interfered with the CCTV, he manipulated his colleagues into not being there at the crucial times. So this was a huge success for the agency. This disrupted a highly sophisticated, highly organised criminal group that had the capability to bring in over a tonne of controlled drugs that would have flooded our communities and our streets, causing untold misery.
Today, each member of the gang was jailed for conspiracy to import cocaine, according to the significance of their role in the group. Danny Laird and Joel McCaughey were sentenced to 14 years and 13 years respectively. Darren Laurie was jailed for more than 12 years, while Kyle Davidson, Michael Turner and Ian Woodward each received 10 years, 11 years and 11 years and 3 months. Security guard Sam Elphick was jailed for 2 years for participating in the activities of an organised crime group. Sentencing all 7 men to a total of more than 74 years in prison, Her Honour Judge Catherine Moore described the operation as a highly sophisticated commercial enterprise. She told them the misery brought about by drugs in society is untold. You were driven by your own selfish greed. The drugs in this foiled operation had been hidden in a consignment of bananas on a ship from Costa Rica. These pictures showed the sheer scale of the haul. More than a metric tonne of cocaine taken off the streets, along with the men who'd sought to profit from it.
Well, Piers joins us live now. Piers, long jail sentences for these gang members, but the judge believed there were also others involved.
Yes, it's believed that the actual head of this organised crime group is still at large. Now, over the course of this 2-day sentencing hearing, we've heard that although this gang included significant players, that there was actually somebody else pulling the strings. And in fact, the judge said during the sentencing that although the gang appeared to have only been operating over the course of 2 months, they appeared to be following well-established procedures that appeared to have been created by a wider enterprise. She said this as she passed those 74-year total sentences. She said drugs have a devastating impact on society and individuals. It fuels other crimes, including violence and dishonesty, and you have played a part in perpetuating it.
Piers, thank you. An emotional debate lasting more than 4 hours saw MPs from both sides of the assisted dying argument share personal stories that had informed their decisions in a packed House of Commons. Their vote was historic and its impact will be far-reaching. Our reporter Leanne Rinney has spent the day speaking to those individuals who will be affected most by the bill, which could see assisted dying legalised.
A year ago, Lee Daniel was diagnosed with advanced breast cancer, and currently there's no cure. She's been told by doctors that her life expectancy is between 2 to 5 years.
When I enter that stage of death, and it is a very distinct stage of death, I would like it to be fairly swift, as pain-free as possible, and I don't want my family traumatised watching me wither away. I believe that with the advances that we have in science and with this assisted bill, you know, there is this possibility to make a death that is compassionate, that is humane.
It is a privilege to open the debate on the terminally ill adults end-of-life bill.
Today, after a lengthy debate in Parliament, MPs voted in favour of a bill to legalise assisted dying.
We can now get on with the serious work of looking at how assisted dying can be delivered safely across the NHS, respecting the reservations of colleagues who don't support it for religious or moral reasons. I'm sure this can be done, and I'm sure the benefits to patients are huge.
But there are also many medical professionals and patients who disagree with the bill. Matthew Wren has been diagnosed with terminal cancer, but so far treatment has helped prolong his life.
I've got a chunk of my life back again, and you know, if I'd been of a disposition and had the availability to take the assisted dying route, you know, I wouldn't have got to this point. I would have thrown it away. And yeah, you need people to come alongside you and support you.
If we have a law which says that assisting a patient, the NHS assisting a patient with their suicide is a new kind of therapy option, suddenly patients who feel that way, who feel they are a burden, as many people do when they become frail or when they develop terminal illness, they'll suddenly feel that this is an option which they might need to take, not for their own good, but for the good of everybody else around them.
But for now, campaigners on both sides must watch and wait as the bill is scrutinised for months before it becomes law. Leanne Rinney, BBC South East Today.
Well, our health correspondent Mark Norman is here. Mark, it's been a day of high drama in the House of Commons. Just remind us, though, of the detail of this bill.
It's really been quite an emotional day, hasn't it? So the bill that has passed its first reading is controversial, but let's take a closer look at some of the detail. The Terminally Ill Adults End-of-Life Bill says that anyone over the age of 18 who wants to end their life must have the mental capacity to make the choice and be deemed to have expressed a clear, settled and informed wish free from coercion or pressure. They must be expected to die within 6 months and satisfy 2 independent doctors that they are eligible. With the final decision made by a High Court judge, the patient would then have to wait 14 days before acting, and MPs in favour of the bill were today highlighting the lack of scrutiny at the moment.
The current legal situation also makes it a prosecutable offence for anyone to advise or assist someone in this horrible situation in any way at all, putting at risk anyone who even knows.
For doctors, well, the British Medical Association, who represent doctors, is neutral on the issue, but has discussed the situation if a bill was to become law. In particular, the BMA would want to see an opt-in model for doctors so that only those doctors who positively chose to participate were able to do so. Doctors should be able to decline if they wish to carry out any activities that are directly related to assisted dying for any reason and which doesn't need to be based on matters of conscience. And the BMA would want it to be unlawful to discriminate against any doctor on the basis of their decision to either participate or not participate in assisted dying. Doctors this afternoon have been expressing their concerns about how this will work in the future.
We reassure our patients who might be scared by what they've heard, lots of stories of terrible deaths and terrible this and that, and actually think about now how we can make sure people aren't scared and think that euthanasia or assisted dying is the only answer. And I think as a profession, doctors really need to have a very clear idea about what part we should play in this and whether it should be part of regular medical care or whether we really should be thinking about a totally separate service.
So today's vote is not the end of the debate, but this is still a hugely important moment. And while a law has yet to be passed, Parliament has taken a step towards a colossal social change in this country. Ellie.
Mark, thank you. And if you've been affected by anything in Mark's report, you can go to the BBC Action Line website. Passengers using South Eastern rail services faced disruption and delays last night after a train derailed at the Ramsgate depot. The train, which was empty, left the track at a low speed, ending up close to residents' back gardens. An investigation is underway into the incident, and customers who were delayed can claim delay repay. The organisers of the Black Deer Festival that has been held in Erridge Park for the last 7 years have announced they are postponing next year's event. They cite the pressure on independent festivals in the current climate for the cancellation of the country music event and say they hope to return in 2026. Burst mains pipes have left more than 1,500 customers across the southeast with little or no water. South East Water apologised to those who are without water or experiencing low pressure in parts of Pembury, Canterbury, Crowborough and Mayfield. The company says repairs are now complete and customers should now be able to access water supplies. A mum from Crawley says her 2-year-old stubbing his toe probably saved his life. Amina says her world was turned upside down when her son Zach was diagnosed with cancer. She noticed Zach had a small injury which wasn't healing and took him to the doctors. They discovered he had leukemia, which was suppressing his immune system. Jadzia Samuel has this report.
It all started when Zach stubbed his toe 2 years ago. The minor injury revealed a life-changing illness. Zach has cancer.
We went to Crawley Hospital. They checked him out. They said it's an infection. Following day, I went back again, and they said it was a broken toe. So they literally just taped it up with the other toe. 4th day, we went to East Surrey. They kept us in overnight, done bloods, and then in the morning we found out that he's got leukemia. When they told me it was broken toe, I could have just left it as that, but something was telling me, like a gut instinct was telling me something's not right.
Within weeks, Zach was on an intensive programme of chemotherapy. He has spent 2 years in and out of hospital. But doctors said Amina's instincts, which made her persist to find a diagnosis, saved Zach's life.
We could be in hospital from anything from 48 hours to 2 weeks at a time, consistently, so it can be quite disruptive to the family life. He goes to school, he loves school, he goes to school, and yeah, he's just it's just trying to work around the chemo daily.
Nearly 2,000 children in the UK are diagnosed with cancer each year.
With all cancer types, it's really important that you get the earliest possible diagnosis. And with children in particular, it's really important that if parents think that anything is wrong, that you're very persistent when you're going to your GP or that you go back to a hospital. And if you're not happy with what you're being told and you have a sense that there's something more going on, then do go back and persist, as we've seen that can be really important in getting a quick diagnosis.
Cancer UK is raising money to supply sensory warming toys to children living with cancer this Christmas. Zach's parents say his toy has been essential for him in hospital to relieve pain and to help him sleep. Now, aged 4, Zach is in remission. By July, his family hopes he'll be cancer-free. Jadzia Samuel, BBC South East Today, Crawley.
Well done, Zach. Now, it is just after 7:15. A reminder of our top story tonight. An organised crime gang behind a plot to smuggle over £90 million worth of cocaine into the UK via Sheerness have been jailed for a total of more than 74 years. The drugs were hidden in a shipment of bananas from Costa Rica. Also in tonight's programme, They're Still Keen, the band, chat to us about their southeast roots, how it all started and how it's still going as they finish up a world tour and release a book.
And today we enjoyed the sunshine, although it was quite chilly. Through the weekend, temperatures are on the rise, but it's also going to be fairly cloudy. I've got the detailed forecast later in the programme.
Football and Brighton are full of confidence ahead of the South Coast derby against Southampton in the Premier League this evening. Fabian Herz's Seagulls have the chance to go second in the table if they can win at the Amex. Well, our reporter Oliver Whitfield-Miocic is at the stadium getting ready for kick-off. Hello, Oliver. This is the club's best start to a Premier League campaign, is it not?
Yes, it is. They've had 6 big wins, they've had 4 draws and only 2 losses, which puts them on par with Arsenal and Chelsea. Now, if they maintain that momentum and they finish the season in second place, it could see them through to the qualifiers for the Champions League. It's something that the club's CEO, Paul Barber, certainly thinks is a possibility, but in an interview in the last few hours with TalkSport, he's urged his players to stay humble, saying that if they get blinded by the dizzying lights of a top 4 finish, they could lose focus and lose everything. That's certainly something that's been echoed by the manager of Brighton and Hove Albion, who's also said that even though they're playing Southampton, who are bottom of the league, he's still going to remain a little bit cautious.
This league is unpredictable. This league is so intense, so competitive. So there's no easy opponent in this league. And Southampton proved it last week, and that's a warning for us to be ready for that game.
Now, joining me, I've got a super fan in Beryl Reeves and her grandsons, Jack and Jason. Beryl, what do you think? Do you reckon it's time to start dreaming? Can you make it all the way through to the European Championship?
I cannot start dreaming because the minute I think they're going to win, they'll lose. We've lost a couple of games, not lost, but drawn a couple of games this season that we should have won. So I'm keeping my feet on the ground, the same as Herzler.
Brilliant. I'm sorry, we don't have enough time to get to you guys, but quickly, just some predictions. What we got?
3-1.
3-1.
3-1. That's what you've heard it. Tune in just over an hour's time.
Will do, Oliver. It looks really fun down there. Hope it goes really well. And staying with football, Crawley are in action in the FA Cup, hosting Lincoln City. That game kicks off at 3 o'clock tomorrow, and Gillingham are not playing this weekend. He may have been Britain's most famous wartime Prime Minister, but he was also rather partial to a few glasses of fizz. And to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the birth of Sir Winston Churchill, National Trust staff at his former home Chartwell have decked the halls with champagne-themed Christmas decorations, with 450 bottles around the house and an elaborate cake, as was tradition on his birthday. Visitors to the Kent property are in for a party. Juliet Parkin went to take a look.
Celebrating in style at the country home of Sir Winston Churchill. Staff here have not only put in months of work on preparing the house for Christmas, but to mark Churchill's birthday, have added something sparkling to the mix.
Christmases could be rather extravagant. There's a wonderful quote from Churchill where he said, "A pint bottle of champagne, as was available at the time, could serve 2 guests nicely for lunch or 1 for dinner." So that was your allocation if you came to Chartwell.
This weekend they're marking a very special date, 150 years since the former Prime Minister was born. And what better way to celebrate a birthday than with a cake?
Every year on Churchill's birthday, a cake would be produced wherever he was staying at the time, and the aim was to make it bigger and better than the year before. Journalists would even queue outside to catch a first glimpse. His trademark hat and the black swans of Chartwell feature on this celebratory bake. And during his years in office, particularly after the Second World War, public interest in Churchill's birthday grew. Each cake was designed with reference to his achievements, personal interests and passions, manifesting his life in cake form. It was one of the star attractions on a tour today, as were the 14 Christmas trees around the house.
Decorated 8 rooms, 14 trees inside the house. We've got 21 Christmas trees along the whole site. Of course, the studios, the painting studios decorated, the cafe and outside as well. We've got about 30,000 Christmas lights, many abundance of baubles and various Christmas decorations placed.
It gave a really nice idea of family life here as well. You can really imagine the family living here and getting together in front of a fire and enjoying a glass of bubbly.
I booked the champagne tour, hoping for some champagne, but did get to look at a lot of champagne, not actually drink any.
Churchill said he could not live without champagne, a fitting ingredient then it seems, for the perfect celebration. Juliet Parkin, BBC South East Today, Chartwell.
20 years ago, an up-and-coming band who met at school in Kent recorded their first album in a Sussex studio. The band was Keane. The album, Hopes and Fears. It went on to sell more than 2.5 million copies and win a Brit Award. The band has now written a book about the album creation, and just back from a world tour, they caught up with our reporter Fiona Irving to relive some of those heady days.
The soundtrack to a generation. Keane's debut album Hopes and Fears is one of the UK's top selling of all time. And for the local lads, it all started in East Sussex.
I think we felt very confident about the music, and the music had been the culmination of, up until that point, a kind of lifetime's work. So we did feel good about it.
And you were so young. I mean, looking back, these sort of fresh-faced 20-something year olds.
What are you saying?
What was it?
You're still young now.
You're still young now, but even younger then. But
Yeah.
What was it like laying down your first album?
I think one of the great things about making the first record was we didn't go to the big city and do it there. We stayed sort of in quite familiar surroundings, and we felt very relaxed doing it, which I think was probably a very good decision.
I mean, it's the coolest thing on earth, isn't it, really,
Yeah.
as well? It's every kid's, well, many kids' dream. So to be in the studio and to be laying down a record was music. I mean, I was so full of adrenaline, like 5 minutes before we went on, I was kind of like hiding in a corner in the dressing room going, I want to go home, you know. I don't feel that nervous about stuff generally,
Yeah.
but it did feel like different stakes, didn't it?
There's a lovely picture of you and Tim, Tim's just like holding you, and like, we can do it, don't worry, and in about an hour and 5 minutes it will be over.
Now a new book out this week brings back memories from 2 decades ago with lyrics, photos and lots of doodles.
They're just on everything. Like, you just couldn't leave a piece of paper around without Tom just sort of sitting there and drawing some random vomiting face on it or something. It'd just be really... So that's
I
kind of fun.
never thought they'd see the light of day, my little drawings, but it seems like people really love them.
What are your hopes and fears for the next 2 decades?
I wondered if that question might come up.
I'm sorry.
No.
I'm going to ask more exciting questions.
No, I think in a way it's kind of great because you know, we would have cringed about that at the time, but now we want to make some new music next year once we've had a bit of a rest. And yeah, what's my fear? Having to get a proper job. Yeah.
We've been seeing that all day. Time now for a look at the weather. Nina is with us. It's all change again.
I know, exactly. Don't get used to today's sunshine because cloud is on its way. But we did have some lovely blue skies, although it was pretty chilly in that breeze, and it has led to some fairly spectacular scenes this evening. But overnight tonight, the change will start to arrive as that cloud builds in. It's also going to be much milder this weekend. Those daytime temperatures well above average. A lot of the weekend will be dry, but we're just looking out for some showers through the day on a Sunday. That's because a cold front is moving in from the west. It's fairly weak, it's fairly fragmented, but it does introduce these showers later on a Sunday. It's dry tonight, and although we're starting off with clear skies, you can see by the morning the cloud has rolled in. It keeps temperatures above freezing. Tomorrow morning 5 to 6 degrees. So Saturday is grey and it's overcast, but as we go through the afternoon, those temperatures will have picked up around about 12 to 13 degrees with a fairly light breeze as well. And then as we go through Saturday night, it stays dry and it also stays fairly cloudy. So once again, it is very mild, a frost-free start to Sunday morning, with those temperatures for many of us starting the day at around about 8 or 9 degrees. That's more typical of our daytime temperatures for this time of the year. And whilst we've still got those overcast skies through the day on Sunday, that cold front just begins to introduce a little bit more moisture. So we could have 1 or 2 light showers during the morning. And then as the day goes on, the potential for some heavier rain just to start to push its way from west to east. But as you can see, that mild air is still with us at around 12 to 13 degrees, but it will be breezier through the day on Sunday as well. That cold front is moving out of the way, but behind it, low pressure just starts to drag down more of a northwesterly on Monday. So a little unsettled, maybe with a few showers. And after that mild weekend we're expecting into the start of next week, the northwesterly winds, and then on Tuesday, a northerly wind does see a return to much colder conditions, but also is going to be dry and bright. So no real signs of the weather settling down. Through the weekend, we will see those temperatures lifted both by day and by night, but at the same time, we've got the cloud, possibly some showers through the day on Sunday. And then as things brighten up through next week, it also sees a return of the colder weather, Ellie.
First day of winter on Sunday, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Oh my goodness, how are we here already? Thank you very much, Nina. That is it from Nina and from me and from everybody. Charlie Rose is back at 10:30. Bye-bye.